Hey everyone, it's Scott Monkern. This is a review of Stockpile. Stockpile is a stock trading game where between 2 and 5 players, ages 13 and plus, 13 and higher, trade stocks using a series of both auction-style mechanics, and also it has a set collection component to it as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the game. So let's talk about the components that are here. We first talk about the board. Now the board is a dual-sided board. It's nice and solid. It's got a kind of a beginner and then an advanced play style, so it's got one style for each. Nice. It's kind of got a linen style finish to it. It's not glossy or anything. Very pretty, very functional in terms of in terms of a board. It's one of the best kind of organized boards I've seen. Then the next thing we've got stock share cards. Stock share cards we collect throughout the game in order to show that we show shares of stock. We have valuation cards, which we'll use throughout the game to show whether stock values are going up or down. And we also have company cards that get tied with those. We also have investor cards, which are used for the advanced game. So if you play the advanced game and you take on an investor, some of them have special abilities. Next one, and my personal favorite, is the money. The money here are small. They're small cards, but they're really, really solid. They're really, really strong. I think, are a little bit heavier stock than everything else. I really like how they did the money. And the last thing is we have a few components, not a ton. We have meeples for bidding. We have little circles to track stock trades, and then we have the X's. I think the circles for trading and the X's for X for tracking turns are a little weak. I would have liked something a little bit stronger, but it's what they went with. Generally, I think the components are really, really good in this game. I did figure out one other thing in the components list when I was recording, and those are the player boards. Each person gets their own player board. They get their own color. The player board basically has two columns on it, one for stocks you purchased and then the one for stocks you've purchased to split. Pretty functional, nothing exciting, nice hard cardboard. So let's go ahead and talk about the art. I really like the art in this game. It was funny. If you're looking for a serious, heavy stock trading game with lots of economics involved, and there's certainly some economics involved here, but it's definitely got a comedic comedic flavor to it, particularly when you go to the advanced game where you take on characters. All of the investors are parodies on kind of existing financial figures, political figures, so on and so forth. So the art's fun, it's comedic, it is certainly not fancy, I would not call it beautiful, but it definitely adds to the flavor of the game. So let's go ahead and talk about the rulebook. Here's the rulebook right here. First of all, I'm going to say this game did not have any player aids. I was kind of disappointed because, honestly, it kind of would have helped in terms of understanding the turns to have player aids. Now, I noticed that when the expansion came out, there were some player aids associated with it, but having one of those kind of one card things where you can say, okay, here's the turn order, particularly for this game, could be pretty useful. But let's take a look at the rulebook and see how it looks. Well, first of all, very pretty artwork on the front, very nice, and they do in fact have a components list on the first page, a second page really. Here's the first page there. So first page tells you how to set up the game. Setup is pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. Then it goes through all the components. I probably would have swapped those two, but that's okay. It goes through a components list. Then it takes you through the rounds and how the rounds work. Nice pictures, good explanation. Had no problems at all understanding the rules. It consists of about 6 phases, then a round. Tells you how the game ends. 2-player variant rules. Rado will be very happy about that. He's already reviewed this. He likes the game as well. It comes with the basic game, and then it comes with what they call expansions. I would call them, actually, expansions, there we go. I would call them advanced rules, basic and advanced, they call them advanced. Basically, you can flip over the board and stocks trade a little bit differently. You can add the investor cards, and each of the investors has their own ability. I actually recommend, I disagree with some of the other reviewers who have said, just play the advanced rules. I liked playing the basic rules for a while, just to get a feeling for how the mechanics work, and then I went ahead and moved on to the advanced rules. And then the nice thing is here on the back, they tell you how to organize everything. And also there was enough space that when I bought the expansion Continuing Corruption, it fit in as well. So, good rule book, no player aid, kind of disappointing, given there are 6 steps to each round, but in general, once you learn how to play the game, it's not so bad. So let's go ahead and talk about the theme. this does not feel like a pasted on theme at all. The theme for this game works really well. I don't see how, given some of the mechanics that are involved in terms of stock pricing, so on and so forth. I mean, sure, you can move it to commodities, which in fact is what they did in some respects with respect to the expansion. But I think the theme for stock trading goes very, very well. The bidding, the auction process, all that kind of stuff, the artwork, all trades well into the kind of stock trading universe, particularly kind of that stereotypical way we tend to think of stocks and the way the stock market works now. Is it completely accurate? No, I mean this is not the New York Stock Exchange game. This is Stockpile. So definitely a fun game, fun theme. Works well. Does not feel particularly pasted on to me, but it's also not a serious theme either. So let's go ahead and talk about how the game is played. The game's ultimate objective is to the person who wins is the person who ends up with the most money, and the way you get money is you sell stock throughout the game, and then at the end of the game you sell off your stock, and the a majority shareholder gets an additional 10,000, but ultimately it's who has the most cash at the end. Now it's played in a series of rounds. Turns, and each the number of turns depends upon the number of players, and then in a round you have essentially 6 phases. Now let's go ahead and go through the phases and how they work. The information phase, you take the valuation cards, those ones go up and down and stuff, and then the company cards, you shuffle them, put one with each hidden so nobody knows what it is. Each person gets one pair and one gets publicly shown, and so basically every turn, there's one piece of information only you know, there's one for information that's public. So you got this concept of insider trading information and then public information. That's the information phase. In the supply phase, you have piles, what they call stockpiles on the board. They're marked, and you put 1 share of stock on each one off the top of the deck. Then each person gets 2 shares of stock. They put one face, going in turn over, they can put 1 face up and 1 face down on any stockpile in any way they want. So they can put them all in one, they can separate them, so on and so forth. All the players do that. Then you go through an auction phase, it's called the demand phase, where people bid and they can overbid and so on and so forth for each of the piles. Everybody gets 1 pile, so it's cool because at the end of the round, everybody gets one of the piles. So it's not like one person get 2 piles and one person gets 0. Everybody always gets one of the piles. Then each person takes their pile, they take their stock and they put it in. There's some penalty cards and some bonus cards that give you money, there are some penalty cards that make you pay money. They're what they call trading fees. There are also cards in there that let you change the value of stocks before the action during the action phase, which is next. And so you've got those as well. Then the action phase, if you've drawn any of these cards that allow you to change the value of stocks, you can do that, and you move them on the board and increase or decrease their value. Now we've got the stock values for so far. And then you go through a selling phase. In the selling phase, each person has the opportunity in turn order to sell any stock they want, any shares, at the value they want. Then you have the movement phase where everybody reveals all of their cards, and we see how stock values have changed. Now, if a stock value hits 10 in most cases, sometimes 8 in the advanced rules, the stock splits, and any shares you have double, and you move them over. If a stock value goes to 0, everybody loses their shares, and at the end of the round, you collect everything up. You don't collect the stock shares up, but you collect everything else up, and you go to the next round. That's basically how a round works. The first time you do it, it takes a little bit of getting used to. Once you've gotten used to it after a couple of rounds, it goes very, very fast. This is a very fast-playing game. They say it's 45 minutes long. I honestly think that for people that are familiar with the game, we've been playing it in 30 minutes or less, because we get very used to the stockpiles and how they work. So that's the game. So what did I think about this game? I really, really like this game. This is probably, other than Warehouse 51, which I got recently, and I'll be honest and say I'm probably going to get rid of it, my only auction game that I've got in my collection right now, and it's my only stock trading simulation I've got in my collection right now. It's very, even with the advanced rules in the standard set, it's a very basic stock trading game. This is not a complex simulation. But if you're looking to just have a good time, this is a fun game to play. Particularly the bidding on the piles of stock in that auction phase can get really, really interesting. In fact, I would say that that is probably for new players the #1 mistake they make is because we know that everybody's always going to end up with a pile of stock. People will say, oh, well, everybody else has bid on these other ones. I'm just going to bid on the one that nobody's bid on yet and just take that one for 0. Really, really the wrong way to play. If you want the game to be fun, you say, oh, this guy bid 0 on this pile, but it's got like 7 shares on it. I'm going to bid on it and see if I can push him up. And you push everybody up, and that makes it a much more interesting game for people. It's also really the best path to winning. The best path to winning is forcing people to spend more on the stock than it's actually worth. I also think that people, when they're doing the bidding, don't think about what the value of the stock is worth. Because if you have, say, 2 stocks that are facing up, and each of them is valued at 7, well, you know you can bid 14 and you're going to be break even. If there's other face down stocks, you may get more money. So I think people tend to undervalue the stocks as well when they're doing the bidding. But that's me. I kind of like it. So really fun game for 2 to 5 players. Kids 13. I could even go a little lower than 13, to be perfectly honest, depending upon how the kids' math skills are. I play this quite a lot. For me, a lot, which is about once a month. I'll probably break this game out and play it. So thumbs up for me. Definitely a good game, and I hope you enjoyed this review.